All right, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is to approve the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, no, this isn't roll call, is it? No,
You're doing fine.
the consent agenda is roll call. Right. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item C, recognition and oath for the newly elected members of the school board. And those are Mr. Jason Enbricht and Yvette Bartholer and Mr. John Curry, who is absent this night and will be sworn in at the next meeting. So would you stand, please?
How do we do this?
Oh, I don't know, this is my first time.
Just raise your right hand and I swear.
Raise your hand and please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and faithfully discharge the duties of my office according to law and the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and faithfully discharge the duties of my office according to law and the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God.
Mr. Chair, I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and faithfully discharge the duties of my office according to law and the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God.
Thank you both. Welcome back to the board.
Do you want to stand back out?
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, this organizational meeting, item C, is the election of officers. I'll entertain nominations or volunteers for chair.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Casper.
Thank you. I accept. Are there any other nominations or volunteers?
You gotta say it 3 times.
Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Right, well, then we need a motion and a second, I believe.
So moved.
We have the motion, and the nomination and the motion, but now we need a roll call.
Who did the motion?
Richard made the motion.
Richard made a
Oh,
nomination, I'm not sure.
He made a nomination,
Yeah.
and since there were no other nominations, I assume that would,
Yeah, you have
I
to make a
didn't,
motion.
I just made a nomination, that's all I
Okay.
did.
I think
all
that-
right, so
That's
I
the-
believe
the roll
we,
call after that.
okay, this is a roll call.
I think that's how it works. I didn't look it up ahead of
All right.
time, I'm not chair.
Is this a roll call?
They all are,
They all
they
are.
all are.
Okay,
Excuse me.
okay.
All right, we haven't, I didn't know if we got a second amidst all of that.
Nominations don't require a second? So the way that this works is you have entertained nominations. So we have a nomination, only one person has to do the nomination. Once the nominations are in, then we do a motion to accept the nominations and cast.
So it's a two-step then
Yes.
after that.
That's right.
All
So now
right,
that we have a nomination,
all right.
now
we-
I would move that we accept the nomination of Tom Casper and elect him as board chair.
all right.
No, second.
I need a second.
No,
I need a second.
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 Third.
Right, we have a motion and a second to accept the nomination of Tom Casper as chair. And
Roll call,
this is a roll call
yes,
to accept it?
yes.
All right,
It always has been.
okay,
Every
I'm
year.
not arguing, I'm trying to learn. All right,
Okay,
Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, it passes 6-0. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to accept your nomination, and will do my best to be worthy of your faith in me. All right, that brings us to the office of Vice Chair. Are there any nominations and/or volunteers?
Can I nominate John Curry?
Now, he did not really want to be an officer, so,
I'm saying it's semi-joke.
okay, all right.
Since he's
First
not.
time around.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Jason Ingrek for Vice Chairman.
All right. I believe Mr. Enbreck, are you willing to accept that?
I am.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Hearing none, we need to accept.
Need a motion to accept.
A motion and a second to accept the nomination of Jason Enbrecht as vice chair.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the roll?
Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
Myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, that passes 6-0.
Thank you very much, and I thank Mr. Enbrecht for his willingness to serve. All right, third officer to be elected is clerk. I'll entertain a nomination or a volunteer.
Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Richard Olson for the position of clerk.
I'll second that. Mr. Olson, are you willing to serve?
Yes, I'm willing to serve as clerk for another year.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Any other nominations or volunteers? Any other nominations or volunteers? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll on the motion?
Need a motion and a second to accept the
I'm sorry.
nomination.
So I move we accept the nomination of Richard Olson.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, it passes 6-0.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your willingness to serve, Mr. Olson. All right, that brings us to the office of treasurer.
I would like to nominate Yvette as treasurer.
I would second that nomination. All right.
I'm willing to do it.
I will.
Thank you.
Say it 3 times.
Ask for more 3 times.
All right, I will, are there any other nominations or volunteers for the office of treasurer? Are there any other nominations or volunteers for the office of treasurer? Are there any other nominations or volunteers for the office of treasurer? All right,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move approval to accept the nomination of Yvette Marthaler
thank
as
you
treasurer.
very much.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Yvette Marthaler to be confirmed as the treasurer of District 656 for the year of 2017. Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll?
Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, it passes 6-0.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Yvette, for being willing to serve. All right. All right, that would bring us to item E, schedule of meetings, and I'm going to try and get that up on. We have a schedule posted in our board book packet.
Mr. Chair, I would just ask, have we confirmed that there aren't any holidays? Often that's what we're scheduling around. So I don't know.
Right,
I didn't get a chance to look, so I don't know.
Meetings that were a little off the regular schedule. I know it's because of holidays.
Okay,
And
so,
then there was a Tuesday meeting that we had to put in there, February 21st.
Yep. and that
so these
was-
have been adjusted for any of those?
Yes,
Okay.
Todd and I worked on that together.
Great, thank
All
you.
right.
And do we not have a work session in January?
No, no, it's because of this organizational meeting, we never have.
Okay.
And then you did remove the work session from the December.
Yeah, yeah, the December meeting fell right in the middle, right before break, so we just eliminated. If you wanted to have another meeting on the 18th of December, we could do that too. Yeah. But we only have one meeting in December and one meeting in July.
All right. Further questions about our schedule of meetings? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the schedule of meetings for the 2017 calendar year.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. This one doesn't require a roll. No. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. That brings us to item F. And I believe a number of staff have already confirmed. Looks like we have a couple of blanks that there may be a member in waiting for that. But do we need to, well, let's look at the Finance Committee. Finance Committee, now are these people, have they confirmed it or are they past last year's representatives?
This is last year's information.
Okay. Well, last year we had Yvette, Richard, and Chad on the Finance Committee.
And we also had John Curry as well, obviously before he was a board member.
And I did, if I'm correct, John expressed an interest in serving on that committee as a board member? Am I?
He actually said something like he ran for board to get out of finance, but maybe
I don't-
it's just making a joke.
I was just gonna say just the opposite. I don't think he wanted to be on
He didn't tell me
finance.
that.
Well, he isn't here. Do we want him on or not? All right.
Okay. Do you know what his preferences were as we move along here? What were
Yeah,
his
he wanted to be on the C committee
Okay.
and then not community ed. And then his high school, or his assignment was either middle school or high school, he feels more. Probably middle school makes the most sense for him. But otherwise, he was pretty flexible. I don't think he wants to be on all the committees either. I'll just put that in.
All right. Well, Yvette, Richard, and Chad, are you interested in continuing your membership of the Finance Committee?
I am, yes.
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 All right. Then, is there anyone else who, then we run into
Yeah, you need 3 or less.
three or less. All right, well, then that seems, we have that one
Unless one
done.
of you three, Andrea, Tom, or Jason, are
Do we need to handle these
dying to get on there.
Just
by
go,
committee, or can we do them as a whole?
do them as a whole.
All right.
Yep.
All right, then the Finance Committee seems to be well-staffed.
The nice thing, I would just insert my 2 cents worth. It is nice to get different people on the finance committee only so that different board members get used to what the finance is all
Certainly.
about with that piece. But, obviously all of you are very good at the finance pieces, so.
Well, I'll say now that next year I wouldn't mind being on the Finance Committee. Schools for Equity in Education, and I believe that Mr. Curry had expressed an interest, and knowing his background, I have every confidence that he would do well there. So unless there's someone else who would be interested in that? All right, so let's put John Curry down for Schools for Equity in Education. The Insurance Committee has been Andrea and Chad, I believe. Are you interested in continuing?
Sure.
Chad? All right. Anyone else have an interest? We can duke it out here. Doesn't look like that'll be necessary. All right, so then we'll continue with Andrea and Chad on the Insurance Committee. Negotiations. Chad Wolf, Yvette Marthaler, and myself.
General negotiations.
Do you know, does John have any interest in this?
He's more interested in the facility committee.
Okay. Does anybody else have an interest in this?
I can't serve on that.
Oh, yeah, you can, yeah. Otherwise, otherwise I'll stay on it, just if somebody wants to,
We will be active this year.
Yeah.
I mean, last year we were real active.
So I'll-
No,
This year we'll be.
okay,
We
perfect.
will have the teacher negotiations coming up
Okay,
and
yep.
and all the other groups that
Usually it's the
follow.
teacher negotiations that takes
Take
the
some
most time.
meetings and.
Yep, okay. Well, I am willing to continue on that, so Yvette, are
I
you?
would be happy to.
And
yes.
Chad, you are? All right, well then negotiations will continue to be Chad Wolf, Yvette Marthaler, and Tom Casper. Policies and policy oversight. Andrea, you have been on that, you wish to continue?
I'd love to.
All right, we have had, and I think it would be good to have. Is there anyone else that would be interested in serving on the policy committee this year?
Could we volunteer John for that?
Mhm.
I think it'd be a good place, that, you know, the three major committees are curriculum and policy and finance, and
Well, if
So
he objects, we'll reconsider.
we
but
can
other
reconsider if
than-
he objects, yeah. But I think it'd be a great place for him.
I agree. So tentatively pencil in Mr. Curry on policy, and Andrea will continue her job there. Any other questions, issues, desires? All right. Then that brings us to the Facilities Committee. Mr. Olson and Mr. Wolf have served on that, and I had heard that Mr. Curry was also interested in that one. So, Mr. Olson, are you willing to
Yes,
continue?
yep.
And Chad, are you willing to continue on that one? Yes. All right, well then, we'll also pencil in Mr. Curry on the Facilities Committee. Curry, Olson, and Wolf for that. Cooperative agreements. All right, I'm a little bit confused on how to read this chart. Kathy, can you help me out? Those are all the agreements and, or did we have one person per?
It was the person directly across from.
All right, so it's one person per area.
Right.
All right, one of the agreements is with Alexander Park. Chad Wolf, are you interested,
Unless-
willing,
So
or would,
they always meet right after soccer. Do you want me just to take that since
If
I'm
you
already
want,
here for
great.
soccer? They do, so I could just
Oh,
knock
yeah.
out.
Yeah,
But you're on soccer too.
I'm on soccer too.
we
But
only
I-
met
And
once
I'd be-
last year and I happened to be gone from it. so,
Right, and they
uh,
just did the meeting right after the soccer one, so I
Perfect.
thought, well, I could just stay for both
Perfect.
then.
all
Or-
You
right?
can pencil me in then too, I mean, if I'm gonna do the meeting,
We're gonna be there anyways.
I can do both.
Enjoy.
I remember leaving for the Alexander Park one, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
All right, Chad would like to
I'll step away from
step
that.
away from the Alexander Park group.
You guys just saved me an hour of a year, so.
Andrea and Jason
that
will
whole
step
hour.
in.
I'll ask for it back at
This
some
could be an
point.
important year, you never know.
But we do have a purchase agreement talked about tonight. All right, so if I'm reading this, Chad will step away, and Andrea and Jason will step into the Alexander Park. Yvette, are you interested in continuing on the ice arena?
Yes, I am. We're very close to paying off that building.
All right,
Exciting times.
okay. And then Jason and Andrea, you'll continue on soccer as well, okay? And the State High School League is Jason and Brooke.
I'm happy to continue doing that.
And the Cannon Valley Special Ed Cooperative, and that was,
I would be
Yvette,
interested if nobody else is
well,
interested in it.
is there anyone else interested in that?
I'll even nominate you.
Oh, I need a nominate. Thank you, though.
All right,
Thank you.
so, apparent, I seem to be getting a bit sloppy. Do we need to,
You do just fine.
Yvette has expressed an interest in the Cannon Valley
Yep.
Special Education Cooperative. Is there anybody else who would like to contest that?
And I think that's one where we can put one person on there, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. The Wellness Committee has been Yvette and Richard.
I'll give it that, I'm gonna be in the facilities, we're gonna have a lot of meetings, so.
Yep.
I
So
gotta
you'd like to
get some-
step back,
Yes,
okay?
please.
Yvette, are you interested in continuing on wellness?
I am. If there's a space, yes, absolutely.
All right, and can someone enlighten me about the frequency of the meetings for the wellness group?
Every month, the first Wednesday at 3:30, but we do not meet in July and August typically.
And we are also considering moving that to maybe every other month, because we do have a lot of that established now, and it's going very, very well.
This is true.
I would have been willing to do it, however, I am employed at the DOC, and 3:30 is not a good time for me.
I mean, one is fine too, you don't have to have two.
All right. Then, with the understanding that Yvette will continue on the Wellness Committee.
I'll actually do it with Yvette.
Wonderful. All right, great.
I'll make it work.
And Mr. Olson stepping away and Andrea stepping in for the Wellness Committee. Any questions? All right. Curriculum Committee has been Jason and myself. I am, for one, willing to continue on the Curriculum Committee and
And I
very
would like
interested. All right, Jason as well. Anyone else care to get involved with that? All right, then we'll continue with Jason and Tom on the Curriculum Committee. And we are beginning, well, we've begun the process of evaluating and contract decisions regarding the superintendent. Jason and I have been on that committee along with Jerry, who has now moved on to retirement nirvana or something, whatever that is. Is there anyone else interested in serving on the superintendent's evaluation and, I believe, contract committee?
If nobody else does, can we, or if somebody does, great, but if otherwise, John would be a natural in that area, just with his experience. Unless one of you guys want
For
to.
everyone's information, we have some materials that we'll be going over, hopefully this week, in regards to the superintendent's contract. And the evaluation process probably should have been done earlier, but will be done beginning fairly soon. It's a matter of collecting data. I will take the responsibility for writing the final report and based on everyone's input, and then we'll present that to the board. So it's not a huge time commitment for anybody. And I also agree that Mr. Curry would be an excellent member on there. I did email him inquiring about his possible interest. I did not get a reply.
Before we decide on that, I just want to ask the boards, I'm happy to continue serving on that. Tom had tried to contact John, as he said. If John is not available this week, is the board comfortable with Tom and I sort of leading, just the two of us leading the contract negotiation, bringing that to the board? Or would we rather have somebody else who at this moment we know here can commit to helping with that? Or should we just be Tom and I? I'm okay either way. I think we'd like to move on this week with it so that it could potentially be on the next agenda, and not, without John here tonight, I don't want to rely on him to be able to do that without being able to talk to him. So I want to bring that up. I'm okay with either solution of just Tom and I doing it and bringing it to the board, or if somebody else wants to join us, but I wanted to mention that.
And just a little backstory. I was aware in December that there was the need to negotiate the superintendent's contract, and I held back with the idea that I knew Jerry Robichaud would no longer be on, and I didn't want him to get halfway through the process. So I chose to delay it, so that's my responsibility, but our hope is that we can move expeditiously with that. So, what are the wishes of the board? We have two.
I would support going forward with your two recommendations and work.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yes.
All right. Well then, would you accept John Curry's presence on there should he choose to participate?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, with that caveat, we'll go with Jason and Tom for sure, and possibly adding Mr. Curry to the evaluation committee. And the Community Ed Advisory Council is myself, and Jerry was there last year. So we have room for another. I'm interested in continuing on Community Ed. Is there anyone else who would like to join us in that group?
usually when those meetings are?
Usually monthly. I'm trying to recall. I thought they were Tuesday afternoons, but I'm not, usually around 4:30, but I'm afraid I'm relying on a,
Andy's gonna check with,
Well, you know, I have to cover the kids because Phil is not Nancy. November 15th, so that was the third Tuesday at 4:30, does that sound right?
that's, Tuesday at 4:30 sounds
probably the third Tuesday.
correct,
At 4:30?
At 4:30.
at 4:30. Well, I'll entertain a nomination or a volunteer or the suggestion that one is enough.
I can help out with that one. I'll volunteer. There's a willingness.
Obviously, you were never in the Army, so.
This is true.
That would be my guess. All right. All right, Jason has consented to also participate in the Community Ed Advisory Council. Is that,
That's it.
that's it for that? Kathy, do you have those?
Yes, I do.
All right, and then
So then we need a motion.
we need a motion and a second to or have the policy or committee assignments as discussed, and I'm not going to repeat them now.
So moved as discussed and with John Curry agreeing to filling in the
Yes.
slots we put them in.
All right, with
Sounds good, that's good.
John having the right to decline, we have him penciled in several places.
I'll
I
second the
need a
motion.
second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second for committee assignments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have had a long history of board members being associated with one of the schools. Yvette was at Jefferson, Richard at Lincoln, Jason at Roosevelt, Andrea at the middle school, Chad at the high school, Casper at the Area Learning Center, and Mr. Robichaud having served for the McKinley Early Childhood Center and ABE. Is there anyone interested in giving up their current school for another? Or do you want to continue where you've been?
So I would like to switch schools.
Okay,
And of course, life would be easy if I would switch to McKinley, but I would kind of rather not since my wife works there. Not that there's really a conflict of interest in this position, but it's, you know.
all right.
So,
Well, if Jason would like to
yeah.
switch from Roosevelt, and McKinley does present some question mark at least, is there anyone else that would be interested in switching schools?
I don't want to give up Jefferson, but I certainly, are you interested in doing a different type of school or different, or is it a different elementary interest you?
a different elementary would be fine. Yeah, I could do Jefferson for sure.
Okay, well, I can certainly do that.
So Yvette and Jason switching schools? Is that, Yvette, that's what you're saying?
The
Okay.
community school's coming, exciting time. I guess I can trust you with it, Jason.
Yvette, I will tell you, Yvette, I will tell you that I just left Jefferson, and I just had a great conversation with Ms. Molitor. And I have heard from, and I've shared this with Todd, at least 2 handfuls of people over the Christmas break at the holiday basketball tournament, how great of a year Jefferson is having. Absolutely fabulous from parents, from staff. So kudos to you and the entire team there, or whoever, absolutely knocking it out of the park by the sounds of it. So absolutely awesome. So Jason? I'm just telling you.
Such a high-pressure position.
All
All
right,
right.
switch is official.
All right. And
He'll take whatever's left over, so wherever you guys are comfortable with, then you guys stay there, then we can put John over with whatever's left.
well, new blood can always be beneficial. For myself, I would like to continue being associated with the Area Learning Center.
I'll keep the high school if nobody's really opposed to it. I had a great meeting with Jamie just the other day, and I've got one on the docket with Sheila coming up, so if people are fine with that, I'll gladly keep that.
That would work.
Okay,
And I like to stay in Lincoln,
okay,
so.
all right. And then
Michigan's kind of a fun school.
Mr.
not quite done.
Andrea, are you interested in staying at the middle school, or would you like?
Discussing, because I know John Curry had expressed interest in the middle school, so I
Mhm.
would be willing to, I mean, I'm willing to go anywhere really.
Okay.
So if that's something he's passionate about, I'll squeeze in wherever.
Well, John was principal at our middle school at one point.
Well, then that makes sense, doesn't it?
So do you want to go to McKinley?
So I could certainly go to McKinley unless, if Yvette would prefer that, I could take Roosevelt then.
I'll take a shot at this one. I did McKinley, it's really fun.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Plus, there's a lot of things happening now in McKinley that they're talking about with expansion and
Great.
things like that, so it should be pretty exciting down
Okay, perfect.
there. Do that.
I'll do
All
that
right.
then.
Okay.
Kathy, you have that. I believe Andrea is going to associate with McKinley,
Yes.
and John with the middle school, Chad with the high school, Jason with Jefferson, Yvette with Roosevelt, and myself with the Area Learning Center, kind of jumping around there a little bit. But
Richard is gonna stay at Lincoln.
okay? Everyone agree, seem to be happy with that? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the school assignments as discussed.
So moved.
So moved based on if John likes it.
Oh.
Yeah, if he's,
That's all.
Katie went, he would take it.
Oh,
he
okay.
actually told that ahead of time,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
so he does, he's okay with that.
Move for approval.
Okay. I think Andre got the
Andre
motion,
first.
so you want to do the second?
Second.
Or somebody else?
We have a motion and a second for high school assignments as discussed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is school board salaries, which are remaining as proposed on the sheet that I'm seeing here. The school board salaries would be set at $250 per month for directors and $275 a month for the board chairperson, and that is as it has been for the last year, at least.
Several years.
Okay, several years. All right. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve salaries to continue at the same level that they have been.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve school board salaries at $250 a month for directors, $275 for board chairperson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to item I. Consider approval of business office annual resolutions for fiscal year 2017. And there's a whole bunch of stuff listed, and our expert is here, so
Yes.
carry on.
All right, so these are the annual resolutions that we have to adopt each year. I'll just go through rather quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. 1701 designation of depositories, that allows us to use the banks that we use to invest our funds and then do our banking business. So we have Mislock, which is an investment fund, and then we have Wells Fargo and the State Bank of Faribault. And then do we do all of these as one resolution?
One.
Last year we did them
motion?
all as one resolution.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so then I'll just keep going. And then we have a resolution designating the Faribault Daily News as the official publication. 1703 is allowing us to use electronic signatures from the board members on our checks. 1704 allows us to make payments before you act on them as a school board. So we're able to cut checks and do payroll between meetings and not have your approval beforehand. 1705 combines the duties of the clerk and treasurer and then delegates those to the director of finance so that we can cut checks and sign the checks is the big one. Well, not sign checks, you guys use yours on the checks, but it allows us to do the different clerk and treasurer duties, except for the signing of checks. You continue to sign them. And then the resolution 1706 is is authorizing our petty cash. So we have 4 different petty cash funds, so we have to approve that each year. And then 1707 allows the Director of Finance to make decisions on investments. So it's authorizing that. Any questions on these?
I'm not sure who it's a question for, but it looks to me like the official publication designation is redundant in item J, right?
Aye, you mean.
Well,
Well, it's also item J, is I guess my point, is it's 1702,
You just do it twice.
and so it's item I2, and it looks to me like it's also item J, so I'm guessing it was just oversight, so we'll
well,
skip
and
item J?
We've never done the business office resolutions at this meeting before,
Okay,
so, and yes, so it's redundant. We
Okay.
can just
we
remove
can
that.
just skip that, then we
Yeah.
there's not, I'm not missing something, it's just
No,
skipped.
historically, we've done these in July, but it's easy
Okay.
to get missed when it's in July. So we're moving
Great.
them to the organizational meeting.
Sounds fantastic, okay.
Okay.
I'll move approval of the mentioned resolutions.
Second.
So resolutions under subheading I, numbers 1 through 8.
Who got the second? Chad, sorry.
We have a motion and a second to approve these business office resolutions. All those in favor, please say
Roll
aye.
call.
It's a roll call.
Roll call.
All right. Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll?
Yes, Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
aye.
myself, aye, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, it passes 6-0.
Thank you, sir. All right. Then we can skip item J. Item K, consider approval of local education agency representative.
Mr. Chair, can we interrupt for just 1 second? Chad was just asking me, and so I should ask, did we mention 1708?
Declaring textbook surplus.
That one was removed at the last minute.
Okay, that's why it's not online,
not
but it's on
on
this printed one, okay.
17.
All right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So let the record show we approved items 1 through 7 under item I. Okay. All right. Back to item K, I believe. And I seem to have lost myself in this.
The online version is slightly different.
Mr. Sesker, could you,
Yeah, I'm on line J. Are you on letter J? I got, consider approval of local education agency, LEA rep.
item, well, we eliminated item J.
Oh, you changed
Okay.
You changed the sequence?
I'm sorry, the paper version is different than the online version.
All
And
right.
that's why when I was asking about item J, it's on the paper version, but it is not on the online version.
All right, no, and I was looking at the paper version as well.
Okay.
So, looking at the online version,
Okay.
Yeah, that's what threw it out.
all right, now, on the online version of the agenda, approve local education agency representative. Mr. Sesker, could you describe that for us as a reminder, please?
Yeah, we have a representative, basically through the Minnesota Department of Education, is our conduit between our school and MDE. And we have always done the Director of Teaching and Learning, which in this case would be Clean Cardenudo.
Okay. Any questions or discussion about this item?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve Director of Teaching and Learning. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Online agenda K, consider approval of Resolution 17-13, designating Todd Sesker as the identified official authority for Minnesota Department of Education secure websites.
Somebody has to be liable for it from our school, and I am that person. So if things go wrong with the authorizations of anybody that get into those different departments, then I'm the person that's responsible for that. So that's why they designate me for that whole thing. Okay.
Questions, discussion? I'd entertain a motion. Oh, this, yes, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
All right. We have a motion and a second. Since this is a resolution, we need a roll call, am I
Yep.
correct? All
Yep,
right, I'm
that's
getting
correct.
there.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clerk, would you please read the roll?
Yes. Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Passes 6-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, that brings us to item L. Consider approval of Resolution 17-14, authorizing the LEA representative for Title III Improvement Plan. Any,
Yeah, that's just our, Title III is our English language learner federal aid that we get. And we have decided last year to have Sam Oak as that representative. He fills out the information for it, and he's a conduit for Title III and the EL program. So it makes sense to have Sam as our.
all right, thank you. Any further questions or discussion?
Move for approval.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve Resolution 17-14. Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll?
Yes, sir. Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Brings us to item M. Consider the approval of Resolution 17-15, providing for the sale of general obligation school building refunding bonds, Series 2017A, and covenanting, and obligating the district to be bound by and to use the provision of Minnesota statutes Section 126C.55 to guarantee the payment of the principal and interest on these bonds. Would you please explain what I just said?
Well, I'm not going to. That's what we have Joel Sutter here for.
all right.
Joel is here from Ehlers. He, if you remember, he was here last month to talk about possibly refunding some of our bonds. So he's gonna take it over from here, and he can explain what that mouthful is.
All right, I'm glad we have somebody.
So you do have a resolution, Mr. Chair, members of the board, you do have a resolution in front of you, and you also have a pre-sale report that we prepared that summarizes our best estimates, latest estimates of the impact of this refunding. Before we get into that, though, I want to go over this little graph. We had a graph when I was here on, I think it was November 14th, actually. We talked about this at length and talked about a possible strategy for when to sell these bonds. And we had a graph somewhat like this, but it showed a 10-year trend. So I thought I would just do a one-year trend here and show you what has happened since November 14th. And if you remember at the time, I think we suggested that probably December would not be a good time to sell bonds, that it might be better to sell in January or February because oftentimes rates are lower then. And we did talk about how rates had increased over the last month or so, especially since the election. So the graph that I showed you at that time was at this point here where it took this little dip here. And so we were at 327 on the bond buyer index, which I'll just remind you, I think we talked about this. This is an index of the average of average yield on a bond maturing in 20 years and with a rating of AA. And your bonds mature in less than 20 years, so the interest rates will be lower than this. But this is just kind of a bellwether of what's going on in the municipal bond industry. So we were at 327 at that time. Rates spiked up considerably after the election, going into December, reaching a high point of 403. This index reached a high point of 403 in early December, then came back down a little bit, and as of last week, it was at 378. So I think, number one, we were right to suggest December probably wasn't a good time to sell bonds because rates were quite high. We did talk about how oftentimes rates come down in January and February. We're still hopeful that will happen. They've come down a little bit toward the end of December and last week, but they're still about 0.5% higher than they were back in mid-November. So you may ask, with rates have gone up that much, why would we want to talk about refunding these bonds now? Well, I'll remind you that the call date on your 2009 bonds, the first date that they can be prepaid, is February 1st of 2018. That means that the best time to refund these bonds, when you're going to get the max maximum savings is sometime between now and probably October or November of next year. So what we have to think about is when are we going to have the best chance to save the most money as possible? And I don't know the answer to that. I can't predict the future. I think our premise that rates often go down in January, February is still a good premise. It does happen not every year, but a lot of years in the municipal bond industry, and it has to do with the supply and demand for bonds that is kind of cyclical during the year. So we still think not much happened in the bond market last week. There were very few sales last week, so it's hard to judge the pattern. We're still hopeful that rates will come down. Even if they don't come down, you've got to wonder what's going to happen to rates over the course of the year. So will rates be higher or lower in, say, October of this year as compared to February of next year? And again, I don't know the answer to that. There are some projections that, based on the fiscal policies that President-elect Trump has suggested, will be higher interest rates. But there's not consensus on that. So we decided to go ahead with this discussion tonight and ask you to consider adopting a resolution. So I will go through quickly the pre-sale report and hit some highlights on that and tell you what we, based on these rates now being about 0.5% higher, what we think the impact will be. So if you turn to the pre-sale report on page 1, we talk about all of the numbers, and the numbers for the existing bonds haven't changed, of course. The costs of issuance haven't changed significantly. What has changed is the projected interest rates on the new bonds, and we're now showing the projections that we prepared last week showed about 0.6% higher average interest rate on the new bonds than what we showed in November. The savings, and if you turn to page 8 of the pre-sale report, I guess I'm the only one actually turning pages here. So you see the estimated savings. It's at $570,000 reductions in future debt service, or about $93,000 to $95,000 a year. In the projections, the estimates we presented in November, that number was $848,000. So that's the impact of the increase in interest rates since then. And I will remind you that we couldn't have sold bonds on November 14th. There's a lot of steps you have to jump through. So we would have been selling bonds in December. And so it wasn't that you should have taken action that night to move more quickly, because it wouldn't have been any better than this. It might have been worse than this. So that's our latest projection, is $578,000. The net present value of benefit as a percentage of the present value of the refunded debt service is 4.77%. That's our best estimate. Under state law, that number has to be at least 3% for you to proceed with an advance refunding. So that's what we're showing as savings right now. There's a whole lot of other information in here about the bonds. We talk about the legal authority for the bonds, the term of the bonds. The term of the new bonds would match the term on the existing bonds. We're not shortening it up. We're not extending it. We keep level savings each year. The fact that the bonds would not you would not be able to designate them as bank qualified because you're issuing more than $10 million in debt during the year. We talk about the state credit enhancement program, the rating. We would get a rating on the bonds. We talk about the method of sale. We're recommending a competitive sale of bonds. We talk about the premium pricing structure that we're expecting on these bonds. We have reviewed your other existing debt. There's no other refunding opportunities to consider at this time. Then we talk about some of the federal regulations you have to comply with that you already are in compliance with on your existing bonds: continuing disclosure, arbitrage monitoring, risk factors, other service providers that would be involved in the issuance of bonds. We've made some suggestions and recommendations based on who you've worked with in the past, and if you want to change any of these providers, you certainly can. That's your prerogative. And then we talk about a time schedule here. So If you want to go ahead, you would adopt this resolution tonight. We then will prepare an official statement, an offering statement on the bonds. I noticed that Andy got an email message from one of our staff today asking her to start providing the information that we'll need to prepare that official statement. We will have a conference with the rating agency in early February. Then February 21st, you have a meeting that night, and we would take proposals on the bonds that morning. If you accept the most favorable proposal, you would award sale of the bonds that night, and then we would close on March 16th. So that's kind of the time schedule that we would follow. And let's talk for a minute about what that process really looks like. So if you adopt this resolution tonight, it doesn't mean that we're definitely going to sell bonds on February 21st. It means that we're going to continue to watch the market. And if rates go up further, we will be in consultation with your administration and talk with them about whether we should even proceed or whether we should wait until later in the year and hope for a better result. If the board wants to give some direction on that, you can do that. You could amend the resolution to say you'd like to achieve a certain minimum level of savings, or you can just give us some verbal guidance as to what you would like to see. But I think adopting the resolution tonight gives us the most flexibility, because then if rates start coming down this week or next week, and it looks like they're going to stay down in February, then we're ready to sell the bonds. We don't have to come back to you and ask for further authorization. So that's why we think it's worth consideration of at least adopting the resolution. So we'll be ready to roll in February with the sale of the bonds. So.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes,
question. So when does the interest rate get locked in? Is it February 21st?
That date, right.
So we have up to that date.
The potential underwriters of the bond will submit a proposal, and once they submit a proposal and sign it, then they're bound to stick by those terms through the closing date.
Okay. So if I'm understanding things, and you've probably said this, and it may not have, what I'm hearing is that if we refinance these bonds, we are likely to be able to save some amount, currently at or estimated at
Yep.
possibly $577,000.
Right. It's not an insignificant savings. It's
No,
not
not at
quite as good as it would have been if you had done it last summer, but it may get better. You know,
Sure.
That's our hope, that conditions will improve like they do many years.
And we would have a pretty firm estimate of those savings based on a recommendation in February, February 21st. Is that?
We'll know a lot more the week before. You know, February 21st is a Monday, so if we're going to postpone the sale, we would want to do that the week before. So we'll have a pretty good idea of where rates are. We have a lot of bond sales scheduled now. As I said, there hasn't been much activity this last week or the 2 weeks before that because of the holidays. There'll be a lot of bond sales in January and February now. So we'll have a good idea of where the market is. We do sometimes get surprised. You know, you wake up on a Monday morning, something unusual happens in the financial markets or in the world, and it causes people to get a little panicky and interest rates go up. So we do get surprised occasionally, but we'll have a much better idea the week before the sale where rates are.
How is this tied into the stock market? If it goes over 20,000, does that affect what we do here?
Well, Dow Jones going over 20,000 would be not a big change at this point. It's almost there. But in general, when investors, it's all affected by investor psychology. And some of the people who buy stocks also consider buying fixed rate investments like bonds. And so if people are very confident, are somewhat confident that the economy is going to continue to improve and companies are going to do well, then stock prices go up and bond yields may also go up. Bond prices go down, bond yields go up. If people suddenly get really worried about what's going to happen with stocks, then they sometimes do what's called a flight to quality movement or a flight to safety movement where they go into something with a fixed rate of return, like a bond, like a municipal bond or treasury bond, treasury notes, or corporate bonds, you know. So if you see a big sell-off in the stock market and stock prices go down, that's when you see bond yields go down also, usually.
So the plan would be to, if this resolution is approved this evening, that you would do the preparation work and that we would be approving the sale of these bonds on the 21st of February.
That's correct.
If we were to have I guess what I'm saying is, can we get sort of a progress report early in February to see how this pattern has continued? And
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
all right, so I guess if I'm gonna be voting on a sale, I guess I'd like to, and I think I'm following, you've done a very good job of explaining this to me, see where we are early in February, and then we can anticipate taking action on the 21st.
Which is a Tuesday, not a Monday.
Oh, it's a Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Yes, you're right.
okay.
Monday's a
But,
holiday, right?
Yeah,
You're right. And the markets are closed on Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm requesting a interim report at the work session, and
You just want the interest rate of,
well, an interest rate and
And the savings
projected
amount?
savings.
We could do an updated estimate of savings. When is your work session?
I'm sorry, I don't have that list.
February 13th, yeah.
February 13th. Sure. So the week before, we can do updated estimate of savings and provide that to Andy and Todd, and they can share that with you.
And did I understand you to say that if we don't want to proceed with a sale as of approval on 21st, we would want to make some decision a week ahead of time?
Well, there's a couple of considerations. I mean, you can make no decision. We could take bids, and if you don't like them, you could reject them. But that's, puts a whole lot of people through a lot of extra work.
Sure.
Not us so much. We're doing all the work and preparing the official statement and everything. But these underwriting firms that submit the proposals on the bonds, they do put a lot of work into putting their best proposal together, putting a syndicate of investors together, a syndicate of other underwriters to work with. And if someone works really hard and puts in a proposal and they're the lowest proposal, and you say, well, that's not good enough, they're gonna wonder whether you know what you're doing and we know what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And they're gonna say, we should have known that's where the market is. So it's kind of poor form to take bids just to see how they come out if you know they're not gonna come out very well. So if we're not going to accept proposals, we should probably decide before that. That's one we should probably decide the week before, like at least by Thursday.
Do we need board action to
No.
do that?
That's what
Could
this
could we have board input or board discussion at the work session, and if we had some concerns, you
Sure.
could
Yeah.
analyze that, so I guess.
The other consideration on this is, we don't charge our fee unless we actually sell the bonds and you close. Your bond attorney doesn't charge a fee unless you sell the bonds and you close. We've got, on page 5, we show the estimated issuance cost at $71,000. So most of that does not get charged unless we take bids, sell the bonds and close. The one fee that is not contingent on that is the fee from Standard & Poor's for your rating. So, but if they've actually issued their rating, which is probably gonna happen on like that Thursday before the 21st, whatever day that is on my calendar here, the 16th or whatever it is. If they issue their rating, then they're gonna want to collect their fee. And if you say, well, we'll probably sell bonds a month or two later, then they'll probably hold on, or 3 months later, they'll hold off on it. But once they've gone through all the work of preparing their rating report, doing all their analysis, they'll expect to get paid. So if we really don't think it's gonna work, we should decide before they do that, so you're not at risk of having to pay that fee.
Well, then I guess I would be looking for a recommendation at the work session, and if we need to have further information or whatever, that would be that. But, I mean, I lay absolutely no claim to understanding the workings of that. So, but I would like a recommendation at the work session. And,
Yeah,
This is a 7-year term, no call.
that's correct, right?
So Andy and Todd, I mean, assuming we do this at some point, obviously, when does the taxpayer actually see any relief or this, the slight relief on a yearly basis?
It'll be the following January, the
Okay.
next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
And taxes payable in 18.
Okay, thanks.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the resolution.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
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 All right. All right, all those in favor of?
Oh, roll call.
Roll call. It is a resolution, yes. All those in favor of Resolution 715 regarding the sale of general obligation school building referendum bonds, and I'm not going to read the rest of it. Mr. Clerk, would you read the roll?
Yes, Tom,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Yvette,
Aye.
myself, I, Andrea,
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, it passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
We'll,
Yeah.
hope for the best.
All right. I've done this once or twice, but I'm still not sure. We have scheduled, or on the agenda, a closed session for discussion of a property issue. So do we need a motion to
I
go
think
into
you
closed
just go into
session?
closed session.
Close, yeah,
Yep.
just move in.
All right, so I can just go in,
Yep.
we're going into closed session.
Yep.
You staying here or you going to the other?
Whatever you.